My wife is incredible but also oblivious. My wife and I were cooking dinner and I decided to go into the other room and take off one piece of clothing before walking back to the kitchen to see if she would notice. She did not notice that I took my shirt off. I said I have to go to the bathroom, and before I came out I took off one more piece of clothing. This time it was my pants. She still didn't say anything or seem to notice. I ended up kind of turning it into a game where I would take off one piece of clothing at a time and see how long it would take for her to notice. It got all the way down to the point where all I was wearing was one sock. And that's when she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "What happened to your other sock?" Pretending to be a woman online. As an experiment a few years ago, I pretended to be a woman on this one site. I won't say where, but I will tell you why. This all came about when a female coworker kept on complaining that being a woman is like having a target on your back. Dick pics and nothing short of sexual harassment. I've been to this one site before. As a guy, had a few issues, but went ahead as a woman. Mind you, all I did was post in the welcome thread, and in another I posted I wanted to make friends. That was it, just 2 posts. Within 2 weeks I had 20 dick pics, and for some reason 6 pussy pics, along with suggestions that were extremely adult. After 3 weeks I closed the account. Somehow my email address got out and the pics and video links continued for over a month. Treat women with respect, and men, keep it to yourself. My mom got super stoned. My mom came to visit me when I lived out of state. I was able to take some, but not all the days of her trip off work. The last day she was visiting, I got off work and went home around 7 o'clock, and we were going to have dinner. I got in the shower to get ready to go. While I was in the shower, my mom got peckish and went looking for a snack in my fridge. I didn't have much, but what I did have was a Tupperware container that was taped shut with bright blue painter's tape that said "Do not eat," THC across the top in big bold letters. It was full of THC-infused cookies that I was holding onto for my neighbor who was real sick, and their fridge went out. Chocolate chips melt in Arizona when you have shitty AC. Not only that, but they were special cookies that he'd had made to be stronger than what's available at the dispensary. By the time I got out of the shower, she was halfway through her second cookie. It took me a second to realize what she was eating. I knew I didn't have much in the house. As soon as I did, I grabbed it out of her hand and kind of freaked out. I know my mom had smoked pot occasionally in the 70s, but she had never been as high as she was about to be. I panicked, and all I could do is take a deep breath and say, "You're about to be really high, Mom." I explained what the situation was and asked her why she'd opened something that says "Do not eat" on it. She said she thought I'd brought it home from work, and that sign was meant for my coworkers, not her, and she didn't know what THC was or meant. And then she was hella high. We ordered in and she ate a lot of food and talked a lot of shit, like ridiculous shit. She said she felt heavy, and then we watched a movie where she couldn't keep up with the plot and asked a ton of questions she'd immediately forget the answer to. Then she passed out on the sofa bed for the night after making a half-assed attempt at packing for her flight out the next day. I love my mom. She recently passed. That was one of our favorite Remember the Time stories. French girl saves my sisters from a creep. My sisters 19F and 23F and I 25M were on vacation in Paris. After doing the normal touristy things, we decided to check out this super cool looking rooftop bar and club. Fast forward, we've all had a few drinks, made some new friends, and we're dancing poorly. I might add our hearts out to the late 2010s American party music. The dance floor of this bar happened to have a pole on a raised, box-shaped platform that anyone could get up and dance on. After seeing several other drunk people get their groove on using said pole, my sisters and I decided we'd like to try it out, cause why not? My youngest sister 19F handed me her phone and asked me to record a video of her and my other sister dancing on said pole. They get up there and are killing it, just having a blast while I drunkenly do my best recreation of a professional videographer. I was getting killer angles, doing a traveling shot, the works. I was determined to make this video amazing. It was then a random woman from among the crowd notices and starts to yell at me and push my arm down. She was speaking French, and I had no idea what she was trying to tell me, but I caught on pretty quickly as to what she was doing. I tried to explain over the music that those girls were my sisters, and they asked me to film a video of them, but I don't think she understood me or just didn't hear me. Thankfully, my sisters noticed and came to my rescue, hugging me and taking the phone back. It was enough to reassure the random girl that I wasn't some random creepy dude taking an unsolicited video of two girls dancing on a pole in a club, but she still eyed me with a wary look. Luckily, my sisters and I were able to laugh about it later and were actually thankful that someone was able to confront a person they didn't know, who they though was doing something inappropriate. Wherever you are, random French girl from the open air club, I'm thankful you did that, even if it made me feel incredibly awkward and panicked for a little bit. If it hadn't been me filming them, she would have potentially saved my sisters or some other woman-man person. You are a hero, and I hope you're doing well. The time an actual murderer tried to kill me and I survived. It wasn't some hardened criminal, or a scary-looking skinhead, or a badass gangster. It was a little old woman, but she was a legit killer. She'd shot her husband in the chest with a shotgun 2 years prior to me meeting her. She did not do any jail time because she had numerous witnesses that had confirmed her story of self-defense. The rumor around the hood told a different tale, but regardless, she had truly killed a man, and the shotgun that leaned in the corner of her foyer was probably the murder weapon. Anyway, I met this woman at the height of my drug addiction. I'm sober now, going on 6 years, but at the time I did opioids. My favorites were Percocets. A fellow junkie happily informed me that we had a promising new plug who sold her 70-pill prescription each month, Miss Coco. I go to the address the very next day and realize this woman lived only a few streets down from my homegirl Selena. I stopped by her place first to say hi. When she asked me why I was in the neighborhood, I told her I was coming to see Miss Coco, and her expression changed. That's when I learned not only the story of the murder, but a bunch of other crazy stories about shit she'd done to people in the hood. Selena begged me to be careful. I'm like, whatever, it's an old woman. I ain't scared. I slide over to the address of this little shotgun house and knocked on the door. She was supposed to be expecting me. The door cracked barely open and I saw how short and old she was. All I could really see was a slice of her face and one of her bloodshot eyes. She asked my name. I told her and she opened the door for me, motioning for me to enter. Right away I saw the gun leaned in the corner. She told me to follow her and I finally got a real good look. She was so feeble-looking, not skinny, but short and hunched over and walked with a cane. Her head was wrapped in a silk bonnet and she was wearing something like a muumuu. Diabetes had taken part of her left foot. We're in the living room now and she asked me to sit down. I chose the only empty spot on the couch. The entire house was cluttered, but not dirty. Suddenly, an oddly placed rug on otherwise bare floors made me wonder how hard it was to get blood out of wooden floorboards. Did Selena say she actually killed that guy in here? She offered me a drink and a snack. She looked at me with surprisingly kind eyes. What a strange drug deal, I thought, but how sweet of her. I remember thinking Selena was foolish for buying into all the hood tales of how dangerous this woman was. I drank a soda, declined a snack, and purchased her entire script of pain pills. She'll be getting it filled again on the same day next month, she informed me. Okay, great, see you then. I returned on a routine schedule for several months, always drank a soda, declined a snack, and went happily on my merry, intoxicated way. I even got to know her a bit during my visits, her diabetes, her kids, how helpful weed was for her pain. I brought her a joint to share here and there. I even helped her move some furniture one day. Never a mention of her late husband though, and I wasn't going to ask. I had long forgotten any sort of wild ideas about this old, sweet woman possibly snapping at any moment. One summer month, it was my day to go to Miss Coco's. My boy Shane was with me already, so I decided to let him ride along. We show up, go inside, same routine as always. She looked at him somewhat suspiciously, but I told her he was good people, and she allowed him in. During our little chat, Shane mentioned something about wanting to see a movie that had just come out. I cannot for the life of me remember which movie. Miss Coco got excited and told us she happened to have a bootleg of that exact movie that we could borrow. She let us look through a giant stack of bootleg, burn DVDs and borrow whatever we wanted. We took 3 of them, and she simply asked that we return them when we were done. That night we decided to watch the one Shane had wanted to see, so we popped it into the player at my place. Immediately it was unwatchable. It seriously looked like a cell phone video. You could see people in the theater walking around in front of the screen. The guy filming was talking loudly to his date the entire time. Garbage. We laughed about it, assumed the other two were just as bad, and watched something else. A few days later, I was going to hang with Selena, so I figured I'd swing by and return the DVDs to Miss Coco. I tried calling, but she didn't answer. I walked up to the doorstep and knocked, but still no answer. I figure, no big deal, I'll just leave EM here by the door for her. She had a storm door that had a screen on the top half and was solid metal on the bottom half. I opened that door, propped the shitty DVDs up against her actual door, and then closed it. That way they couldn't be seen and were protected from the weather as well. I go on to Selena's place and don't give it a second thought. Later that night, I'm getting high with my friends and my phone starts ringing. I'm seriously faded, so I just decide to ignore it. I don't feel like talking. It rings again and again. Finally, my homie is like, "You gonna answer that?" So I pulled out my phone to check it. It was Miss Coco. She never calls me. Ever. Especially not late at night. Having her number in my phone was strictly for the purpose of me calling her on the 12th of each month to announce what time I'm coming over. That's it. Today was only the 9th. I thought maybe something bad had happened and she needed help. I called back and she picked up before it even rang one time. She was furious. I mean, absolutely livid. She did not sound like the little old lady whose couch I chill on. She was extremely pissed about the fact that I had left her DVDs in the door. She lectured me about how a dumbass white person like me just doesn't understand how things work in the hood. Someone could have seen me leave them there and could have come behind me and stolen them. I should have waited until she was home. I was disrespectful and rude and ungrateful. She went on and on. I didn't have an attitude in my voice, and I did apologize. But I also mentioned that even though I appreciated the gesture, the movies were really pretty terrible and not worth anything. Abruptly, and very eerily, her tone changed. Suddenly she was sweet old Miss Coco again. She told me I was right, and she was just a little on edge that night. She apologized for her reaction and told me I was good to her and didn't deserve that. Then she says, "As a matter of fact, Shed gotten her script early this month. She picked it up earlier today. Why don't I come on over and get it tonight?" Now, any sane, sober person would have immediately noticed red flags here, but in my infinite knotted-out wisdom, I thought Junkie Jesus had performed a miracle for me, and that my night was about to get even better. Time to get extra faded, bros. I'll be back with more goodies ASAP. I head off down the street to Coco's house. I'm still very, very high. I'm walking up to the house and I see that the DVDs are still there. Coco opens the door before I even get on the step and tells me to pick up the movies and bring them inside. Her voice was stern, which was unlike her, but she didn't sound crazy like she had on the phone. I bring them into the living room where I always go to sit, and something is just off. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I realize she's still behind me in the foyer area. She starts telling me the same thing she was saying on the phone, but calmly this time. My back is still to her. I don't say a word. I set the DVDs onto a side table and, despite being extremely inebriated, finally realize that I'm definitely not here to pick up pills. A temporary sobriety of the survival instinct variety kicked in all at once. Everything just sort of clicked into such a clear, crisp vividness that I'll never forget. I knew she was standing exactly where the shotgun leans. I knew she was between me and the door. I knew that she wanted to kill me, and I knew that she already had a whole gang of local folk ready to corroborate whatever story she came up with. Every single detail that Selena had described to me the day she warned me about Miss Coco played through my mind in a matter of seconds. I ran. I burst out the back of the living room, knocking over that stack of fucking bullshit bootlegs as I scrambled past it. I'll be honest, once I had found my way out the back door, I wasn't that scared anymore. It's not like she was going to catch me. I circled back around the tiny house and took off down the street, probably before she even managed to hobble around and look out of the front door for me. I never did see if she actually picked up the gun. My back was to her, and I made the decision to run without even turning around, but I just knew. I felt it. It was a feeling I won't soon forget. The scary part was knowing just how absolutely mind-numbingly high I was, and how oblivious I was until the very last second. And that's the story about how I was almost taken out by a crazy little old lady with a shotgun over the world's shittiest bootleg DVDs. Makes you wonder what small infraction her late husband committed. Yes, this is a true story, and I have lots more drug-fueled, wild encounters if any of you would like to hear more.